Good evening, and welcome to another global version of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. Now here's your globular and gluttonous host, Voice of Doom. Good evening, everybody. I didn't really plan on doing a diatribe today, and I didn't do my prayers, so it'll probably come off as rather discombobulated and unorganized. I wanted to do something informative instead of just giving my humble opinion on the madness that's going on day by day. But I've been getting comments from my stalwart fan, Nick, about certain international events and situations that we should probably concern ourselves with. And now that Petrie has finished with his State of the Union, we don't have to hear from him for a while, and we can worry about more pressing things like worldwide annihilation. Now, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds or go too deep into history. What I will say is I will refer you to my diatribe called Between a Rock and a Hard Place, ROC. And it was made a while ago when our stinker of the house, the succubus, was taking a trip to Taiwan. And I did a very in-depth analysis of the history of that particular island, so you could rewatch that and then come back to this to get a preamble, lay the foundation. I can't remember exactly when she went. It was after her husband was caught drinking and driving and got into an accident, but before the hammering, so do the math. But let's talk about the three major military nuclear powers that occupy this planet right now. And I will say that Russia was a monarchy. It was overthrown in 1917 and turned into the first major communist regime. We'll call it socialist, because communism's never worked and it's never succeeded. They amassed a vast region of land as they expanded eastward, took over all the stands, took over Ukraine. And then World War II broke out, and against our better judgment, we were forced to ally ourselves with that Soviet Union, as it was called, against Nazi Germany, because the Nazis attacked Russia. And so there was an uneasy alliance. Now, in the process of winning that war, we divided up Europe. The United States took Western Europe. Soviet Union took Eastern, and they divided Berlin and divided Germany in half and shared it between them. Now, we more or less left our countries free to be independent and free to have their own sovereignty, their own hegemony, you might say. Whereas the Soviet Union took their half and basically turned it into more satellites of the communist regime. So they became bigger and bigger. Now, we bombed Hiroshima and we bombed Nagasaki with 2 nuclear bombs, atomic bombs, big mushroom clouds. And the Ruskies, the Soviet Union, did not take kindly to that because they realized that the U.S. had an arsenal which could be a threat to them. So they stole our ideas and they built their own bombs. And over the period of time between, say, 47 and early 60s, there was what you call an arms race. Turned into a space race. There was all kinds of races, but it had nothing to do with whether you were a biological male running in the marathon. It had to do with arms races, seeing who could build the most nuclear arms, atomic bombs. Got better and better at building them, got better and better at creating delivery services, such as submarines, such as silos. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't know anything. Now, the Soviet Union has 5,977 or so atomic bombs at their disposal. What is now Russia, since the Soviet Union collapsed in 1900 and I believe 91, is 5,977 nuclear bombs. The United used to be States has around 5,500. Now, ironically enough, if you look all this stuff up on Google, you're going to get information that is not helpful. Because it'll say, how many bombs does NATO have? And they'll say 4,100, including the United States, or what used to be. And then in the next paragraph, they'll say the U.S. used to be has 5,500. So how could NATO have only 4,000 if it includes the used to be the United States? Now, let's not get into numbers. Once you get past 1,000 atomic bombs dropping on a place, then the subject's moot after that. 1,000 bombs will do a lot of damage. Basically, kill everybody. Now, Petri dish is president, I guess. Somehow he managed to become the head of state. And he has said in no uncertain terms that we will support Ukraine against their fight against Russia, which used to be the Soviet Union, which has 5,000, what did I say? 977 nuclear bombs. And we will support them as long as it takes. And if we have to escalate the situation in order to defeat Russia, then we will do so. Now, let's go to China. I will expand a bit on a rock and a hard place, a previous diatribe, where I will say that we had a president in the 90s who was a very, very staunch globalist. He was very good for the New World Order. And he established a thing called WTO, the World Trade Organization. What that did was that took mainland China out of the Dark Ages, where they were starving all the time and couldn't take care of themselves because they're trying to be communists and you just can't do it. And it gave them economic power, and we bought everything from China, and you could go to Walmart and see thousands upon thousands of items made in China that we could buy cheaply. Cheap bicycles, cheap toasters, cheap whatever, space heaters, I don't care, cheap shot glasses, all made in China. Now, Petri dish, of course, is bringing back manufacturing to what used to be the United States, so we will have that going for us, except that we'll pay 3 or 4 times as much for everything we bought before. So a toaster will cost $125, and shot glasses will cost about $15, $20 for the plastic ones, little set of plastic shot glasses made in what used to be the U.S., but we have to pay competitive wages, so everything's going to be more expensive. So we don't buy stuff from China as much anymore, but we still do, and we still need to. Now, China is now one of 3 superpowers. You can say what you want, but China is a superpower. Now, they may not be fiscally responsible. They tend to build huge futuristic cities and leave them empty. They tend to build islands off certain coastlines in certain places, build islands out of whole cloth, and then call it Chinese territory to encroach and to spread their tentacles. And they tend to build condominiums and then blow them up because nobody paid the rent. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So I don't say that the Chinese are very smart with their money. But they have built up quite a military. And Petri Dish has also made it clear that we are going to support Taiwan, support Taiwan's autonomy by any means necessary. Which means that if mainland China decides to attack Taiwan, we will go to war with China. And if the Ukrainians do not make some headway this spring in this war that they're waging with the Ruskies, then we will continue to dump armaments and possibly send troops to that region. So, I'm saying that Petri Dish is being very cavalier about the fact that there could be a worldwide conflagration with nuclear and atomic bombs and hyperbaric bombs and what have you. Neutron bombs. It's old-fashioned, but we still probably have a few laying around. Now, let's go back to history in general. Throughout my life, there's been proxy wars. Korea, Vietnam, things happening in Central America in the 70s and 80s, where we were fighting different regional wars, say in El Salvador or Vietnam, and those were the staging areas where the superpowers were really fighting each other, but not in the sense that we are going at each other, bombing China, bombing U.S., what used to be, or bombing Moscow. We do it with proxies. We've been doing it to keep the military-industrial going for the last 70 years. It will be our undoing. We think that we're noble. We think that we've done the right thing. We've been on the... God is on our side, so we have nothing to worry about. I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings. We will suffer extreme karmic retribution for perpetuating war for our own profit. And a lot of these people who are sitting pretty with their pensions and their nice house are going to lose everything, and they're going to wonder why. And it's because you're paying, you're going to pay. You just aren't going to get through this lifetime unscathed. It's not going to happen. So we are getting ready for a nuclear conflagration because nobody's backing down. Xi, happiness, wants Taiwan for mainland China. And he's going to get it. I don't think he wants to bomb the place in order to get it. I think he wants to get it intact because he wants those semiconductor factories. And I know how he could do it, but I'm not going to say because it's a brilliant idea and I don't want to give him any ideas on how to take over. Ukrainians are going to fight to the very last person, to the very last citizen in that country in order to keep the Ruskies from taking over. So any peace talks that might have been made like a year ago, peace talks after the Ruskies encroached, we aren't going to allow peace talks because we want to keep these proxy wars going. But it's not going to be a proxy war, okay? Do you understand? We're going to go directly at war with two superpowers. You can only guess what the outcome's going to be. But I would say if you live in a big city, don't worry about stockpiling any canned goods because you will be incinerated. So I'm going to leave it there. I don't think I said a whole lot. I just wanted to, give you a little geopolitical overview about what we're up against. I don't really like the way Petri is just so nonchalant about we're going to protect ROC, the Republic of China. We're going to protect Ukraine. We're going to protect any other encroachments that may come. We're going to send Poles and Bulgarians to fight, which gets NATO directly involved in the conflict and gives despots a reason to bomb Poland or Bulgaria or Serbia or almost any place. Come on. Do I have to spell it out for you? We're getting close to World War III in earnest. The World War III that means we're going to see mushroom clouds in what used to be this United States, which is now a landmass covered with bacteria. So I didn't say much, but I'll continue this. I didn't do a lot of research. You can look it up and see what you find. But it's kind of scary. I don't think people are ready to face atomic nuclear annihilation. I just don't think so. They think it's not going to happen. Mutually assured destruction keeps us safe. Alright, we'll see what happens. Alright, I'll leave it there, and hopefully I'll do better next time. Thanks everybody, and enjoy what's left of time.